Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt the atmosphere shift? No one says it aloud, yet the glances, the silence, and the forced smiles are enough to tell you, someone here does not like you. That quiet hostility never comes head-on. It hides in polite words, in half-hearted compliments, in the way the energy seems to sink the moment you arrive. The question is, what should you do? Argue, explain, or pretend not to notice? Stoic philosophy points us to another path, a path of silence yet strength, where you do not need to shout to affirm yourself. You only need to stand firm, calm, and let your life itself become the answer. In this video, I will share 9 quiet yet strategic ways to rise above hatred, not with words, but with steadfast presence. 1. Forgiveness. Lay down the burden. Keep your freedom. Forgiveness is one of the hardest acts a person can perform, yet it is also the purest expression of inner strength. When people think of forgiveness, many misunderstand it as weakness, as allowing others to cross boundaries, or as abandoning justice just to preserve peace. In truth, forgiveness has little to do with the one who wronged you. It is not the erasure of what happened, nor is it a false handshake of reconciliation. Forgiveness, in the Stoic sense, is the decision to free yourself from the weight of resentment, anger, and the toxic emotions that drain your life each day. When you refuse to forgive, you believe you hold power by remembering the faults of others, yet in reality you become a prisoner of your own memory and emotions. The Stoics repeatedly emphasized that the only thing fully within your control is your own thoughts, choices, and actions. Betrayal, harm, or slander from others lies beyond your influence. You cannot govern the poison in their minds, but you can decide how to respond. You can choose not to let their bitterness poison your life. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Forgiveness is the way to affirm that truth. By releasing hatred, you do not mirror cruelty. You become free, independent, and unbound by the venom of resentment. Resentment has a quiet yet corrosive power. It is like acid dripping day after day, eroding the peace of the mind. Those who carry resentment rarely realize how much time and energy they give to the past, leaving the present distorted and the future clouded. Forgiveness is like laying down a heavy load after a long journey. Your shoulders discover a lightness they have never felt before. This is not weakness, but the strength to dare to liberate yourself. To the Stoics, forgiveness is a silent declaration. I no longer allow the past to define me. Forgiveness is also training reason to rise above emotion. Epictetus said that if someone can make you angry, they have become your master. This reveals a simple truth. When you let yourself be ruled by anger or revenge, you hand over control of your life. Forgiveness is reclaiming that power. It does not change the past, but it transforms your relationship to it. Instead of remaining a victim bound by memory, you become the author who redefines your story. To practice forgiveness is to focus only on what matters and what is within your control. You cannot control rumors, malice, or the behavior of others, but you can control the peace within yourself. Forgiveness is telling yourself, my peace is no longer up for negotiation by anyone's actions. This is a strength no one can take away because it lies entirely in your hands. That is what makes forgiveness a form of quiet victory, unyielding, unspoken because your enemy no longer has power over your soul. 2. Keeping silence before provocation. There is a truth most of us forget. Not every attack deserves a response. The world will always have people who test your limits using words, gestures, even silence to provoke, hoping you lose yourself in anger. But if you fall into that trap, you have allowed them to decide your emotions. The Stoics understood that an outburst of rage is never a mark of strength, but evidence that you are being controlled. Stoic philosophy teaches that silence is not avoidance, but a conscious choice. When insulted, you can reply immediately, but that only fuels another spiral of tension. Instead, you may choose silence, letting the attack fade like an echo into emptiness. Epictetus reminded us that it is not events that harm us, but our response to them. If you believe words can wound you, they will, but if you remain clear-minded, you see them for what they are, mere sounds, powerless unless you grant them weight. Silence in such moments is not cowardice, but the strength of one who knows there is nothing to prove. When you react instantly, you admit that the other holds sway over your state of mind. By contrast, silence declares that your thoughts and emotions belong to you alone. This is a different kind of strength, one that radiates from calmness and mastery within. In modern society, many mistake quick, sharp reactions as signs of confidence. But the truth is the opposite. The ability to remain calm under provocation is the real sign of stability. The Stoics valued delaying reaction, for it creates space where reason can rise above impulse. In silence, you can observe, distinguish what truly matters from mere noise, and act only when needed. This composure separates the one who is led from the one who leads. Silence also carries a subtle power. It forces the aggressor to confront themselves. Those who try to provoke feel unsettled when they see their efforts fail. They expect an explosion but meet unshaken calm instead. This not only disarms them but exposes the futility of their attempt. Without a word, your silence sends the message, "You do not control me." The Stoics also stressed that silence does not mean tolerating abuse without end. It is not endless submission. Silence is a tool, a shield that protects you from reckless reaction. When you finally choose to speak, it comes from reason, not impulse. In this way, silence is the first step to control, and control is the foundation of freedom. Keeping silence before provocation is not only a personal response, but a strategy for life. It preserves energy, prevents meaningless battles, and keeps your mind fixed on what truly matters. The Stoics refused to trade their peace for a fleeting moment of anger. They understood that silence is sometimes the loudest answer, for it guards you not only from external chaos, but proves that your soul has matured, steady and unshaken by the noise of the world. 3. Serenity. Choosing peace over being right. Serenity is one of the most elusive yet most essential qualities in Stoic philosophy. Many mistake serenity for indifference, believing it to be detachment from everything or avoidance of responsibility. But serenity in the Stoic sense is entirely different. It is not neglect or lack of care, but a conscious decision to preserve peace within, even when surrounded by conflict, friction, and injustice. It is not a refusal to face reality, but the choice to place inner calm above the need to win every argument. People are often drawn into battles over right and wrong by the ego, by the need to prove their worth through debate and assertion. When someone insults, attacks, or distorts the truth, the natural reaction for most is to respond, to defend the self, to prove they are not wrong, or at least not weak. Yet the Stoics knew that endless disputes rarely yield real outcomes. What they leave behind is usually exhaustion, lost peace, and sometimes lasting wounds for both sides. Serenity does not mean ignoring truth or accepting injustice, but recognizing that some battles are not worth fighting because the price is your own peace of mind. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that people act wrongly not because they intend to harm you, but because they do not know better. Understanding this helps us temper bitterness and hold on to serenity. When confronted with hurtful behavior, you may react like most anger, arguments, and a descent into weariness. But there is another choice: to remain composed, to accept that the other acts from ignorance, and not to let it rob you of your calm. This choice is difficult, yet wise, for it gives you mastery over your emotions instead of letting others govern your state of mind. In modern life, where social media and news demand immediate reactions, serenity is rare yet invaluable. Many think quick and sharp responses show intelligence and strength, but true wisdom and power lie in holding silence and observing before reacting. To the Stoics, serenity is a shield that guards against the noise outside. When you place the peace of your soul above the hunger for right and wrong, you no longer fall into pointless conflicts, and you preserve energy for what truly matters. Serenity is not the final goal, but a means to remain clear-sighted and true to your values. When you choose peace over clinging to being right, you do not diminish yourself. You prove that your worth does not need validation through confrontation. This serenity makes you steadfast, for it shows you have risen above the ego and chosen to live by reason. And that is the true strength of the Stoic: not victory in every debate, but victory over the self, keeping the soul unshaken by trivial things. Serenity is the silent declaration that your life is not shaped by the constant need for recognition, but by the inner freedom you cultivate each day. It is the reminder that sometimes the way to win is not to enter the fight at all, and that peace within is always worth more than any outward victory. 4. Rebuilding, let results be the answer. When faced with betrayal, loss, or attack, the first instinct of many is to retaliate. We want to prove we are not weak, that we cannot be disregarded, and the fastest way seems to be with words or actions against those who hurt us. But Stoic philosophy shows that such reactions bring no peace. They bind you into an endless cycle of resentment and defense. The Stoic chooses a different path. Instead of arguing or striking back, they channel all energy into rebuilding themselves, letting their results become the most powerful response. Rebuilding is not a sudden act, but a steady process, demanding discipline and persistence. It begins with accepting reality, facing loss, and realizing that while the past cannot be changed, the present is still in your hands. The Stoic wastes no time on blame, for they know that time spent in anger is time stolen from the work of renewal. They do not ask, "Why did this happen to me?" but, "What can I do now to turn this into training for myself?" This shift in mindset transforms tragedy into opportunity, forming the foundation of rebuilding. When you pour your strength into renewal, you send a silent yet powerful message. You are not defined by failure or betrayal, but by how you rise afterward. Every slander, every scheme loses weight when met with the reality that you keep moving forward, still building value, still standing strong. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you respond that matters." Rebuilding is the clearest embodiment of that wisdom. You need not explain or defend yourself, for the results alone will speak with undeniable force. Rebuilding is also proof that you choose action over reaction. Reactions come from emotion. Actions are guided by reason and long-term vision. When you are busy constructing a new path, there is no room left for bitterness or despair. The work of renewal itself becomes a remedy, freeing the mind from the grip of the past and fixing it on what is within reach now. This process not only creates outer results, but also strengthens the inner self, for each step affirms that you still govern your own life. The Stoics believed success does not need to be announced. It is like dawn, no applause required, yet powerful enough to dispel the night. When you rebuild with integrity and persistence, others cannot help but notice. Those who once wished for your fall will grow silent, not because you sought revenge, but because your very existence becomes proof beyond denial that you are stronger than they imagined. And this is a form of quiet triumph, neither loud nor defensive, but deeper and more lasting than any revenge. Rebuilding is your affirmation to yourself that life is not decided by your falls, but by how you rise after them. Instead of letting wounds become shackles, you turn them into stones, paving a new road. The results you create are the sharpest reply, not for your enemies, but first and foremost for yourself. That you are never for healing to end reactivity. Many think that intense reactions come directly from present situations, but the truth is subtler. Most of what makes us explode does not come from the moment itself, but from unhealed wounds of the past. A criticism may awaken memories of being belittled. Silence may stir fear of abandonment. Indifference may remind us of childhood invisibility. Unless these memories are faced, they become invisible triggers, making us react like machines, no longer like free beings. Stoicism teaches that to be truly free, we must look inward to recognize the fragments lodged in the soul. Healing is not denial or forcing emotions away. It is the process of facing, observing, and unraveling. When emotion rises, instead of reacting, pause and ask, why does this hurt so deeply? What wound does it touch? The question is uncomfortable, for it forces us to face the shadows we avoid. But there begins healing. The Stoics believe that what we avoid will rule us. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the part of us repressed and unacknowledged. When you refuse to face pain, it does not vanish. It breaks out as unconscious reaction. You think you are angry about the present, yet it is memory unaccepted that rises. Healing is the act of bringing the light of awareness to that darkness. Once you understand its root, its power diminishes, and you can begin to choose differently. Healing in the Stoic sense is not a storm of emotion, nor a dramatic ritual. It is steady discipline of reason, patient and consistent. You observe your reactions like a scientist studies an experiment, noting each shift, each trigger. Each time emotion stirs, you do not rush to judge or blame, but ask, where in me does this come from? Does it belong to the present, or is it only the echo of the past? With repetition, you begin rewriting the inner script, turning chains of memory into insight for growth. It is vital to distinguish between the real feeling and the story wrapped around it. The feeling of being disrespected may be real, but it becomes bondage only when you believe you are always disrespected. Healing means accepting the feeling, but refusing the old story's control. You may acknowledge the pain, but you do not let it write your present. In this way, you slowly step out of old reactive cycles, regaining freedom piece by piece. Stoicism never denied human pain. Marcus Aurelius wrote of sorrow, anger, and loneliness, but he did not let them bind him. Instead of lamenting, he recorded them in his journal to observe, to examine with reason, to turn them into practice. This is the essence of healing, not denial, not clinging, but looking straight and learning. As you walk far enough on this path, what once made you lose temper, lose sleep, or fall into panic grows quiet. Not because the world softened, but because you stopped giving old wounds power. You discover that reaction is no longer the only option. You can pause, breathe, observe, and act by value, not by memory. And in doing so, you enter inner freedom where no one can pull your strings with a word or a glance. Healing to end reactivity is not a destination, but a practice. Day by day, moment by moment, you train by watching emotion, tracing its source, and reminding yourself you are not a slave to the past. It is a long road, but the result is steady stillness. You do not grow cold or numb, but firm so that when storms rise, you stand upright, knowing the source of strength is not in the past, not in others, but always within you. 5. You do not need to be understood. One of the deepest roots of insecurity lies in the desire to be understood and acknowledged by others. We often feel valuable only when we are heard, accepted, and assured that what we think and do is right. Yet the truth is that no one can ever fully understand you. Every person sees the world through their own lens, shaped by memory, experience, prejudice, and personal desire. Thus, even if you explain until exhaustion, others will still interpret you in their own way. And if your worth depends on being understood, you will always feel disappointed, always bound by what lies beyond your control. Stoicism reminds us that you cannot change how others see, but you can change how you live. Freedom comes when you release the need to be fully understood. Not because you are cold or indifferent, but because you recognize misunderstanding as an inevitable part of life. You may act with the utmost clarity, yet in the eyes of others, it will still be distorted by what they carry within. When you accept this truth, you no longer waste energy fixing every false perception. Instead, you invest it in living true to your own principles. This does not mean rejecting all communication or explanation. It means you no longer treat being understood as the condition for your worth. You may explain when necessary, but you no longer exhaust yourself in endless debates to defend an image. Your value does not come from outer agreement, but from the honesty of your actions. When you live true to yourself, even if misunderstood, your essence remains intact. In Stoicism, there is a clear distinction: what is within your control and what is not. How others think of you, how they interpret your words or actions, this is beyond your control. What you can control is choosing to act with reason, holding to your values, and not allowing your emotions to be ruled by another's gaze. Once you grasp this distinction, you begin to feel lighter, for you are no longer chasing the invisible. The hardest part is overcoming the urge of the ego. The ego demands to be vindicated, to be recognized, to have everyone know your truth. Yet your truth, in the eyes of others, is only a fragment in the picture they see. The more you try to control that picture, the more disappointed you become. Letting go of this need is laying down a heavy burden. And once you do, you uncover a deeper freedom. You are no longer bound by judgment, nor forced to perform to please. This is not indifference or selfishness. Stoicism does not teach us to close the heart, but to know boundaries. You can love, care, and share while still guarding the independence of your soul. You do not require others to understand you in order to live fully. You live because it is the right path, because it is the reasonable choice, whether or not anyone sees it. When you achieve this, you are not only free, but steady, for no misunderstanding can shake you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If someone misunderstands you, let them remain with their thought, while you continue to live rightly." The meaning is plain. Others' reactions do not determine your worth. Your task is to act with virtue, with reason, and let the rest belong to life itself. This separation shields your inner peace, keeping you from being dragged into the endless spiral of argument and justification. When this principle takes root, you will notice a great shift. You no longer need to win every conversation, to explain every misunderstanding, to prove your worth in every eye. You only need to hold to the truth within, letting daily actions be your witness. And when you live this way, you discover a freedom greater than ever before, for your worth no longer depends on the world's gaze, but only on the integrity of your soul. 6. The power of silence. Silence is often mistaken for weakness or surrender, yet in the Stoic spirit, silence is a clear expression of inner strength. When you are silent, it is not from fear or retreat, but from refusing to let the outer world invade and disturb the inner one. Silence is the deliberate choice to avoid being pulled into meaningless disputes, into cycles of provocation, and into actions born of impulse. In tense moments, people often feel compelled to respond at once, as though silence equals defeat. But the truth is the opposite. When you react immediately, you give others power over you, allowing them to decide your feelings and actions. Silence breaks that chain. It reminds you that you have no obligation to answer everything, no need to join every battle, no duty to prove yourself in every moment. This is the strength of silence. It preserves your energy, guards your calm, and returns to you the power of choice. Marcus Aurelius wrote that true strength comes not from conquering others, but from mastering the mind. In silence, you do exactly that. You preserve peace amid chaos, hold reason while others are led by emotion. Silence is not emptiness, it is space where reason can speak. Like a cleared room, it allows clarity to emerge, unobstructed by the noise of impulse and ego. The power of silence also lies in perspective. When you are not rushing to respond, you have time to observe the whole, to see what truly matters and what is mere display. Many debates are not about truth, but about who shouts louder, who appears stronger. If you engage, you may win in words but lose your peace. If you remain silent, you forfeit instant rebuttal, but keep clarity, waiting for the right moment to act. In many cases, silence is not withdrawal, but a wise strategy choosing the right time and way to act. Stoicism also emphasizes that silence affirms your self-worth. When you feel no need to speak to prove, when you feel no pressure to be acknowledged, that is mastery. One who is easily provoked, easily drawn into quarrel, shows a mind still ruled by externals. But one who can sit still amid provocation, keeping the voice within quieter than the storm without, that is true strength. Moreover, silence opens space for listening. Not only to others, but more importantly, to yourself. In silence, you notice the subtle movements of your emotions. You see where you are being triggered, and you can contain them before they become action. Silence is the safe distance between emotion and response, between impulse and reason. In that stillness, you regain freedom to act not like a machine in reflex, but like a conscious being in command. There is a strange power in silence. It drains insults of weight, renders petty schemes meaningless. A quarrel requires two sides. If one refuses, it dies. By silence, you starve the unworthy of energy. This is Stoic wisdom. Strength sometimes comes not from reaction, but from refusal to react. Silence does not mean ignoring injustice or accepting wrong. The Stoic is not indifferent, but they discern when to act on principle and when to remain still to avoid useless conflict. They act when needed, never from ego or pride. Their silence is not avoidance, but the preservation of clarity for what truly matters. Practice this, and silence becomes inner strength. It steadies you when all around is noise, sharpens your vision when others are blind, and guides you to act by values instead of emotions. Over time, you will see that in many situations, silence itself is the strongest reply you can give. 7. Energy is wealth. In modern life, many people complain that they are exhausted, unable to focus or pursue what truly matters. They assume the cause is overwork or heavy responsibilities, but in truth, the deepest fatigue does not come from doing too much. It comes from letting energy leak into the meaningless. Mental energy is like an invisible form of wealth. You have only a set budget each day, and if you spend it on trivialities, by day's end, nothing remains for what truly matters. Stoicism emphasizes that inner stillness cannot exist without mastery of energy. Those who fail to guard their energy will always feel anxious and strained, for they allow small disturbances to invade the mind. A disapproving glance, a negative comment, a needless misunderstanding, all can become tiny cracks, draining your inner strength. Without awareness, you are like a vessel with a fracture. No matter how much water is poured in, it slips away. The first step in guarding energy is learning to distinguish what lies within your control and what does not. Epictetus reminded us that some things are within our power, and some are not. Yet we often pour effort into what lies beyond our reach. Others' opinions, judgments, or unchangeable circumstances. By doing so, you hand over your precious energy to what brings no progress. But if you channel energy into what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, your choices, you will feel your strength grow day by day. Guarding energy does not mean avoiding life or living closed off. It means choosing wisely. You cannot still the storms of the world, but you can choose not to enter every storm. Each time you feel the urge to react, ask yourself, is this truly worth my energy? Will it make me wiser, stronger, and more at peace? If the answer is no, let it pass. Not every silence is defeat. Often it is the clearest sign that you know what deserves to weigh upon your mind. Focus is the highest form of energy protection. When your will and attention scatter across too many things, you cannot go deep into any. The Stoics advised reclaiming energy from the fragments of the trivial, so it may be invested in what endures. When you pour your whole mind into an action aligned with reason and virtue, you not only act more effectively, but also more peacefully, for you live in harmony with yourself. Mental energy is an unseen asset, yet more valuable than any wealth. You may lose money and regain it, lose reputation and rebuild it, but when energy is drained, even the smallest tasks become burdensome. To protect energy is to protect inner freedom. For when you save your strength for what truly matters, you are no longer swayed by passing impulses or meaningless noise. And once you master this, you see that steadiness does not come from doing more, but from the courage to abandon what is unworthy, keeping your energy whole for what is most essential. I believe the true strength of Stoicism does not lie in distant theories, but in quiet, daily practice. Modern people often seek quick comfort, yet forget that lasting peace does not come from avoiding hardship, but from standing firm within it. Each principle reminds us of a shared truth. We cannot control the world, but we can always control ourselves. If we cultivate emotional discipline, learn the power of silence, heal to end reactivity, guard our energy, release the need to be understood, see emotions as signals rather than commands, and place value in action, we will build a foundation strong enough for freedom and agency. This is not the easy path, but it is the certain path to growth and inner peace. If you find these ideas valuable, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next content. And remember, peace does not come from the world changing, but from learning to master yourself. See you in the next video.